welcome to some major breaking news within the Noah Presgrove case. More shocking developments have come about, and today I'm going to be sharing with you all the details in terms of a summary, sharing my notes in regard to a certain call that was made end of April of 2025, not that long ago, in which a member of the general public within the community of this case was talking with Kathy Bingham, the private investigator, and Kathy revealing all kinds of things from what she thinks is the situation with Noah's death, and it might shock you as well, references to Kaden Pressy, and on top of it, in a separate conversation, I think, depending on how the audio changes, even Kaden Pressy speaking with what's gone on previous, references to the Netflix documentary, filling some of the empty patches in which we've been questioning with time. Today, join me and be sure to stick around for the full understanding as I relay the notes and add on with my response, reactions and analysis with on top of what we already know of and heard in recent time. See if there's any correlations, check for any contradictions, check for anything that really does stand out. And what I will say is, if you do watch till the end of the video, the final sentence by Kaden Pressy may send chills down your spine. With that all being said, welcome to those that are watching this live premiere. Share your thoughts, reactions in the live chat on the right-hand side of the screen. And at any point, and for those watching up on catch up later, be sure to share your comments below under this video and I can respond back to them when possible. If you are interested in catching the latest coverage on the case, and if you have missed out on previous videos, don't worry, you'll be able to find that all top right corner where the I symbol is up there, full playlist. And if you do want to support this channel in a more practical, alternative way and anonymously, down below in the comment section, there will be a PayPal link and pinned message. Shout out to those that have supported the channel in recent time in the background and on YouTube as well. With that being said, we're just going to jump on in right now. What I do want to say is, as a disclaimer, I'm not going to be playing the video or the audio to you because I don't want any copyright issues or any legal issues. Even if it's out there publicly, it's on Facebook pages which may be considered private. So it's kind of public, but not completely. And if anyone else gets in troubling situations, do I need to be dragged down? No. But I've listened to the audio, I've made notes, I've gone over it several times to make sure what was said was clear. The audio was reasonable. Kathy Bingham's voice and wording was a little hard to listen to at times, and the pitch, tone, trying to listen to the words, having to rewind back, but it was okay in the end. So if anyone is interested in seeing it from the horse's mouth and listening to the actual evidence material, you'll be able to find it on the case discussion page of Noah Presgrove and the Noah's Ark page. It might be on the Army page as well, but I wouldn't know because I'm blocked from there, typical. So, if you want to check, you know where to find it. But just listen to me for now. I do understand that in the past, when it's come to doing interviews, like with the family, victim's family and whoever else, like in the Dylan Brown's case, viewers couldn't stand or to stomach listening to the actual people's voices because they didn't like them, they didn't like the voices, all kinds of reasons. So they preferred it from my point of view. I listen to what's at present, I take it all in, I make notes, and then I relay it and add on from there. That's my style, it's what I've done in the past. I get the chance to do it again, and it is very useful. And what I will tell you is, one or two video ideas. One, definitely, there will be a map analysis which can come from these notes, and we can do a theory-based one, maybe timeline as well. So be on the lookout for that, and as well catch up on previous videos. To start it off, the video itself, it's a video I think it's associated with Noah's project, I guess, gathering material. If anyone wants to fill in the backstory there or give additional credit, you can do so down below in the comment section. But it has been obtained or posted elsewhere before that. But there was issues. And one of the issues is a person was on call with Kathy Bingham, end of April 2025. And when you listen to it, you hear two female voices. On the end of the phone is Kathy Bingham with the higher pitch voice and the one that swears quite a bit. But the initial person that started the convo, something about I'm heading out to Rochester, I'm trying to figure out how to use my, was it AirPods or something? That individual, unknown as for who they are, to my knowledge at least, that they were the one that shared it, that call, with other people online. And I think it either backfired or went wrong, and then that's how other people got a hold of it, and then it spread and spread and spread. You could say kind of maybe a microcosm of the Alicia Lee Dropbox situation with Kaden's private police interview. I think, personally, mistakes can be made along the way, of course. You just have to look a bit deeper, as in, why are you sharing it in the first place? Who are you sharing it with? And then go from there. See, like with Justin Roy, how he felt stabbed in the back in the past. I said, well, to try and avoid that again, ask yourself, why are you sharing it and who with? And can it go wrong? Can you trust whoever that's about? Has that happened here? Who knows? Don't know the full context, but in regard to context of the details from the call, it was all made very clear. So we'll properly begin now. Kathy Bingham mentioned, and take in mind some of it is word for word and other bits are roughly quoted, re-quoted from what they said. Kathy Bingham said, why the beep? She did swear. Why the F is Alicia Lee, Kaden's mum, smearing Kaden's name everywhere, such as online, about different events, being quite vocal. And I don't know if it was around Easter time of 2025 or maybe it was before that. It wasn't that long ago on my channel when we did look at some never seen before conversation screenshots from Facebook Messenger with a person communicating with Alicia, and Alicia was talking about stuff that we've never really heard before. And even I was like, wait, why is she saying this? I'll give you an example, like the mention of, oh yeah, Kaden Pressy was driving home and he called me at around 6 in the morning or a bit before to let me know the news, and he was sad, he was upset, and then that's what sparked Alicia in possibly contacting OHP at 6 in the morning about the news. As said, Kaden has never mentioned that himself, not in any of the interviews, police or public, with partners in true crime. It felt as if Alicia, amongst other details, which we can always refer back to because I've got the screenshots elsewhere, where it was like Alicia was adding on additional things which weren't true, or changing previous things that Kaden had said to make it sound like something else, to make either Kaden sound more of a victim than what he is, or to make the situation sound more dramatic and maybe other people appear more darker. Why does Alicia, if that's the case, why would Alicia supposedly have to twist, turn, or change anything if Kaden Pressy is truly innocent at the end of the day? Alicia wasn't there, Kaden was. As long as Kaden was asleep from start to finish, before Noah walked away, and after the death, Kaden completely out of it, then Kaden should be innocent. Even if his timeline is a bit wonky and off, even if mistakes have been made and there are discrepancies, as long as Kaden slept from 2 in the morning, woken up at 2:42, possibly asleep around 3:20 or before, then woken up at 5:15 or later, if later remaining asleep from 3:20 to 6 in the morning and not waking up in between whatsoever, Kaden should be innocent. So Alicia shouldn't have to do anything or change or add anything. Because when you do, you might feel like you're helping. you're making it worse. And I think Kathy does acknowledge that later on, so don't go anywhere. So at first, Kathy Bingham referring to Alicia as smearing Kaden's name all over the place. And I guess when you smear something, you're spreading it. And whatever you're spreading, it's not always a good thing. And it can have knock-on effects and return effects onto that said individual, which would be Kaden. Now, does Kaden approve of Alicia speaking on behalf of him all the time and online and spreading it all over? Makes you think. A reference what Kathy Bingham mentioned in terms of the smearing was like the air tag. We've covered that previously. An air tag which was on Kaden's vehicle in 2023, I think, and then another one in 2024. One or the other, I think the 2023 one, yes, Alicia, in her Facebook Messenger conversation, admitted to putting it on Kaden's vehicle to track where he is, where he goes, and if he's okay. So if he does ever get in trouble, they'll know where he is. The find a phone or Life 360 tracking gap can work so much, but if Kaden leaves his phone behind or the phone is dead or turned off, you can't track. If you use like an air tag tracker on a vehicle, it'll be more reliable, and wherever Kaden goes in the vehicle, you'll know where he goes because it's attached to the vehicle. Of course, though, it still has its limitations. Kaden could park up somewhere, get out, and then go on a walk and go missing or get kidnapped. You can trace the vehicle back, but if Kaden has exited the vehicle, how do you trace him from there? So I guess some people may have not thought that through, but for Alicia, early on in the case of 2023, to be tracking Kaden Pressy, before, I guess Kaden was like threatened a lot online and all that trouble and the leaking of the police interview and, you know, all of that. Alicia worried for her son very early on. Motherly instincts, being protective, understandable to some extent, but the main reference is Alicia admitted to tracking her son. But then she said at some point in 2024, I don't know if it was June or July or later, that a tracker, similar thing, AirTag, was found on Kaden's or inside Kaden's vehicle. And Alicia's claiming she has no part in that, or at least somebody else is responsible. And it was noticed on like a screenshot of a map, which was down the road or outside the house of the Pressy household or so. And it's like, well, who's done that? Why would somebody do that, though? Is it a killer? Is it a bad person? Are they trying to intimidate, scare Kaden, scare him away from the case, silence him? What's really going on? Is it sinister? Is there a misunderstanding? And depending how you interpret, I guess, the language and wording from Alicia, Alicia could be admitting to, well, the tracker in 2023 was by me and 2024. Or the tracker was by me in 2023. However, another person did the same thing, a different person, maybe for different reasons, in 2024. Depends how you look at it. We can always reflect upon it. At least that's how I interpret it, and from what I can remember, that it seemed like Alicia was admitting in general more so. I've got to be careful with my wording, so apologies, okay? I think Alicia was more so in general admitting to putting a tracker on Kaden's vehicle. And I interpreted it more so as probably 2023, possibly. I don't know if it was like added on or not, because I know some people in the chat, the live chat at the time, was giving a date or a month when it happened, and that's what I was quoting. But at least in 2024, a tracker which Alicia was wording as if she had no part in it. But if you're known for tracking your son, could you have been referencing 2024 as well? So it depends how you look at it. Yeah, and Kathy Bingham, when talking about that situation, that example in that call with that member of the general public, mentioned Alicia Lee, also known as Alicia Pressy, called me about that sheet in the first place. So when it went down, I guess in 2024, Alicia found out about her son and that tracker, worried and concerned, reaching out to Kathy Bingham because of having a bit of a connection and doing interviews before early on to some extent. And like at the household when Kathy came round and Alicia was there as well. I guess that's who you might reach out to. Interesting how Alicia would reach out to a private investigator who she does not trust to tell and confide in her with that stuff about the air tag, instead of communicating with police. You know, like with who you reach out to first. Maybe if something bad, upsetting, shocking happened, you might reach out to a family member, comfort a loved one, and just calm, cool down and try and figure out what to do next, be relaxed and try and help. But you're reaching out to a non-related blood member of the family. Kind of a stranger to some extent, but not as much of a stranger when, with the run-ins what Alicia's had with Kathy back and forth with any interviews or with Alicia's son. So you're kind of familiar with the person, but you know, who's going to be able to help more? Kathy Bingham, private investigator about this air tracker, or actually the police? Now, you could do both, really. But what was the real reason behind Alicia contacting Kathy before the police, when Alicia had said in her own words she absolutely does not trust Kathy Bingham, because Kathy Bingham's supposedly going behind her back with Alicia's son, doing interviews too in the past. Hopefully you remember that reference. So does it suit Alicia at certain times when and when not to reach out, whether you do trust someone or you don't, or you change your mind in between? It's worth highlighting. But, you know, in terms of Kathy Bingham's voice and tone, maybe a bit pissed, maybe a bit shocked, and just like, how could Alicia do this or be like this, and lack of action taken, calling me about that shit, as Kathy worded in the call. Kathy Bingham also said, I tried to get her to go to the police. And it was hard to listen to in terms of the wording, but it was implied that she just didn't go to police, as we've kind of figured out beforehand in that older video of mine. Kathy Bingham said that she stuck them there. That's like how it was like quoted. She stuck them there, as in Alicia, the AirTag on Kaden's vehicle. I guess to say stuck them means more than one, right? So you're referring to 2023 when she did admit, or she supposedly could be implied that she admitted to that particular event. And then 2024, which played no role in it, could well have done it themselves. There's proof and evidence to show an air tag on the vehicle from that little screenshot taken. Did it have the exact year on? I can't fully remember, to be honest. But just on the basis if Alicia was responsible for the second air tag in 2024 on Kaden's vehicle, but making it seem like it wasn't her and it was some stranger, some creep, why would Alicia do that? As a means to gain sympathy, support, concern, worry from the general public, so they'd be treated more leniently, so Kaden could be treated more leniently. Some people on the sideline online were saying, oh, Alicia did that. Maybe it was around the time, as some said, supposedly of raising money to get funds. Appear, you know, distraught, appear scared, appear vulnerable when you're not really. You planned it yourself to gain a reaction, to gain support in unnatural ways, and maybe monetary gain as well, from what people online said, not me, what other people were suggesting, possibly around the same time of when it happened. So with that, Kathy Bingham, besides saying Alicia stuck them there, no wonder she didn't go to police. As in the second time round it happens, she didn't go to police, no action taken, because if she did, she knows, and maybe police would know, that she was the one that did it. We saw on that conversation Facebook Messenger previously where the other person said to Alicia, well, can't you track it back to the original person that put it there? trace back to IP address or some kind of personal details? And Alicia said, yes, we'll get to the bottom of it. Did they get to the bottom of it? Well, we never saw or heard of an update. Police never really called. And, you know, if it's somebody else responsible and you are protective by nature and normally protective, and your son appears to be in danger, and you've taken action all other times, taken precautionary actions, this one time when you don't take action stands out more like a sore thumb. No action taken. Is it because you're hiding, covering for someone that is responsible and you don't want them to get in trouble? Or because you did it yourself, and if you did and report it in, you kind of expose yourself and it doesn't look good on yourself and it could damage the credibility of Kaden even further. Different ways of looking at it, but the fact that even if Alicia was responsible, for Alicia to reach out to Kathy Bingham about it, isn't that risky in some way? Because it could backfire there. And in a way, I guess it did, because Kathy Bingham, suspicious of Alicia and feels that Alicia is responsible for it all. Some kind of elaborate plan, based off interpreting the language, wording and tone of voice by Kathy Bingham, more so, right? So that's just an example where Alicia steps on in, adds on, details, AirTag, tracking. Kaden has never mentioned it ever before, nor the one in 2023, when maybe Alicia was responsible for that. So for Kaden to not talk about it in police interview to the Partners in True Crime public interview, is it because it just never happened? Because if Kaden Pressy was fully aware himself of that air tracker Apple tag on his own vehicle, such as in 2024, did it happen before or after the time of the private police interview? If it happened before, then Kaden had an opportunity in the private police interview to talk about it. And because he didn't, is that because he didn't know? Because he couldn't, because he knew Alicia was responsible, but Alicia's masking it as if somebody else is responsible online? If the air tracker tag happened after that private interview, then we've not seen or heard of any follow-up interviews with police since with Kaden, so you couldn't talk about it earlier when it didn't happen earlier. I can't remember the dates, but I'm just covering all angles. For those that know, will know and will understand what I'm trying to get at in my points made. So, besides that, moving on, and I use a question mark as for unknown individual on the call that is contacting Kathy Bingham. I'm also guessing that this unknown individual that shared it with people and then it went wrong and backfired, that this individual was recording the call as well, based off the audio and how it sounds. And Kathy Bingham, it sounds like you're listening to it from another device or from out the speaker of a phone, and then using another device to record it from that phone, so it captures her voice, not an internal recording, more an external with another device. Interesting, recording calls. Was Kathy Bingham aware that it was being recorded, that call? I wonder, what would they have to say? And, you know, if it does it backfire, that's why I'm not playing the audio myself on my channel, because who knows what could happen. It could all go wrong, just like that private police interview with Kaden Pressy being leaked. Anyway, besides that, the unknown caller responding to Kathy Bingham says she, as in Alicia, admitted to putting trackers on Kaden Pressy's vehicle. Trackers meaning more than one. But it's confirmed, and by Alicia herself, that she was responsible for one of the trackers, more than likely, possibly 2023, maybe. But then the 2024 one, somebody else, but this person's interpreting it as, well, Alicia admitted to one, basically admitting to both. It depends how you interpret the language and wording from how Alicia speaks. That's all it comes down to. But based off just the inconsistencies along the way and the lies as well, it wouldn't be a surprise if Alicia had, you know, actually done both trackers on Kaden's vehicle. It wouldn't be a surprise. With the whole, you know, lake situation, supposedly on the day of Noah's death, September 4th, 2023, when Kaden Pressy calls to hang out with JJ Bumphouse at a certain creek, something lake, which is it like near to Duncan or so, a bit further away, northeast or so. And At 10:59 on that day, Alicia had called JJ Bumpaz, maybe to inquire about, is Kaden with you? Kaden's not answering. Can Kaden come home? How long is he going to be out for? This is the day of Noah's death. Kaden, my son needs to be here with us, family. Who knows? That's just an interpretation from how the call could have gone. Whether JJ actually answered the call or not, that's, I guess, a bit of a mystery, but a call was made to JJ by Alicia, and at that time, supposedly it could be interpreted that Kaden was with JJ. It would make sense. But Alicia responded to all that and said, well, no, the call that I made, the outwards one, was actually towards my, was it mother-in-law called Dorotha? The digits, final 4 digits do not match the actual call that Alicia made, and Alicia has the call log, so why would she lie? She outright lied there. You got the call logs, you got the numbers in front of you, you can't make a mistake there, right? So it's very weird that. If Alicia can lie about something like that, and maybe some other things along the way, well then, this example about the trackers wouldn't be a surprise either, just based off patterns and trends of what we've seen. You let me know if you agree or not to that. Then moving on, Kathy Bingham says about Alicia talking about following Kaden Pressy at the party. Started transitioning on to other talk, more so reference to the time of the party when Kaden was there. I basically roughly worded it down from what Kathy said, and I couldn't quite understand it. Alicia talking about following Kaden at the party. Following in what way? Tracking his movements via the app on mobile and then texting Kaden saying, why are you not with Georgia? I'm contacting Georgia's mom, Melissa, right now because I told you earlier to be following her all around the house, Georgia, after she was sick, so she's not vulnerable, so no one takes advantage. And you, Kaden, have failed to do that. I've contacted you a few times, you have not called back, and if you don't call back again, that's it. I'm reaching out to Melissa, and that's what basically happened. I don't know if Kathy Bingham was basically highlighting that in regard to that either Facebook or iMessage conversation between Kaden at the party at the time and Alicia. Kaden at 12:48 a.m. 00:48 in the morning of Monday, taking a photo, sharing it with Alicia to say, oh, Georgia's not too well, sick, must be drunk from drinking too much. And Alicia, oh goodness, how could this happen? Make sure no one takes photos. If she needs the bathroom, go and follow her to the bathroom. Don't leave her out of your sight. But yet Kaden did. And then that's what sparked it. So Alicia was tracking Kaden's whereabouts at the party as well. Now my question is, was Alicia tracking Kaden's whereabouts on the Sunday, on the Saturday as well, before that, and maybe Friday if Kaden was there? How often was Alicia tracking Kaden Pressy at the party? Was it just when Georgia came on down, or was it before as well? You let me know what you think in the comment section. There could be a mystery there, you never know. But, you know, you think that Alicia is tracking her son at a party? Can be for numerous reasons, but the act of tracking someone can be, at times, a level of controlling behaviour in those negative relations and connections with one another, and in relationships, tracking someone wherever they go and what times and where they're at and who they might be seeing. Some people may track one another because there is a trust issue and maybe levels of insecurity. Maybe if in a relationship where you may put a tracker on the person's phone or other device or vehicle or clothing, whatever it might be, how extreme it may be, because you don't trust what they say or what they get up to. They might be truly innocent, but you know, you've got issues yourself, where issues with them, issues with trust, present or past damage, trauma, whatever it may be. You need that reassurance. That tracking app creates that reassurance and keeps you at bay, keeps you calm. But what does it do for the other person that's completely unaware of it? Because that's the other factor you've got to take in mind. Maybe Kaden was aware that he was being tracked, or one tracks one another, and it's careful, it's cautious, it's respected and understood across all boards or from different family members, who knows? But if you're being tracked and you don't even know about it, and it's by a loved one, you might feel betrayed, you might feel stabbed in the back, You might then develop a trust issue too. Can I trust this person when they can't trust me, even though I'm being honest, even though I am here, I am over there, I am meeting up with this person, it's only a friend, that's all it is, and the other person can't see it that way. So yeah, that can be quite toxic, can be quite unhealthy, can be quite tense, can make the other person, the victim, or the one on the receiving end, uncomfortable and question and judge everything and second guess everything that they do and say and where they go, because they might be feeling in the back of their head that the other significant other is tracking, following, waiting and listening in. Who knows? May even show up at a place where you're at and it's like, how did you know I was here? Creates all kinds of doubt and cast. But yeah, that's a separate one. Controlling behavior and trust issues and factors. Another one can be out of genuine concern and worry for someone. If you truly believe that a person you may know, close or blood related, is in danger, you may track and follow them. Long term, short term, in the moment. But, you know, when it comes to tracking, it's got to be set up in the first place, I guess, on the same day, a day before. And the further back it dates back to when you actually initiated the tracking or added a tracking device, days, weeks, whatever, before someone was in danger, that raises eyebrows as well. If you sense someone's in danger from before anything actually happens and you track and they're made aware of it as well, and there's communication, that's better than nothing. Things from the past, present, or the possible uncertainty of the future. One person may be normal, bad things happen to someone, they get worried, concerned, overprotective in a caring way, slightly unhealthy but still genuine, done with intent to look out for that one. The other person may be aware and alert of it, feels awkward at times, know that it's in the best of their interest or best of intentions by the original person tracking, but it still feels a little bit of imprisonment. Wherever you go, they will know. And if you do anything out of the ordinary, you change something up, you might be questioned, you might be called, and it's like, oh, for God's sake, I'm just doing something different for a change. I'm just spending a bit more time here. I'm taking my time. Do I have to answer? Do I have to respond to everything? And it might get a bit tedious, might get a bit too much, a bit too overwhelming. More positives than negatives or more negatives than positives, depends how you interpret it. I've gone over the whole situation there with tracking and stuff. What's the deal with Alicia and Kaden then? Is a Kaden aware of the tracking, the AirTag, and in the past as well, in the early days of the case? Are the family members, etc., all aware of the Life 360 app, that they've all got it? And like other party goers and other families, and I think Justin may have mentioned about the Life 360 as well. Checking in just to make sure people are okay and looking out for one another, healthy, communication, okay, understandable. But the whole reference of Alicia, if responsible, but also Alicia saying somebody else is doing it, what the hell's going on there? Seems a bit unnatural. Seems darker stuff happening. So yeah, to return back to what Kathy was getting at in regard to Alicia following Kaden at the party, I'm guessing digitally speaking from that conversation with Kaden and the Georgia situation onwards. If that's not what Kathy mentioned, if anyone can interpret it differently, leave a comment down below. The only other type of following I could interpret it would be physical, but that would mean going to the party. And Alicia said she never went to the party, but she was down the highway at some point, somewhere down the highway. But that was more so in terms of picking up Georgia. But we have seen, probably not from Alicia, I might be wrong, I might have to look back, but it was brought up in recent time, at least in my videos, amongst what others have said, but Kaden dropped Georgia off at the highway and then returned back to the party. That's what general public strangers said, which is weird. But I think from what Alicia said in Facebook Messenger, kind of like what we've covered in recent time, Alicia said Kaden was outside on the front and went back in once Georgia had left or so, or got picked up by, I guess, maybe Breely's sisters. It's just weird because the last known thing what Alicia did was contact Melissa, or was on the verge of doing that, because Kaden would not pick up, would not respond, and was distant from Georgia physically. But then the last known thing was, as Alicia says, oh, and before Georgia left the house, Kaden was outside beside her. So was there a need to contact Melissa then, really? Was there any communication between that from Kaden's silence onwards to then contacting Melissa by Alicia's phone? And then whilst Melissa was picking up Alicia said 45-minute drive down to the highway, parking up at some, well, not quite parking up immediately, but driving down the highway, passing by Brearley, Georgia, and I guess sisters driving of Brearley, passed by him, had to make a call. Melissa did, hence why Alicia's call log does not show a call made to Georgia or Brearley. Melissa called, said, hey, you need to pull over. And then Melissa turned around the highway and drove back down, heading north, I think, likely, to park up and then exchange and get Georgia in the back and then drive on. And then on the way driving back home, at some point at 2:42, making the call to announce to Kaden, Georgia is on the way home now. That may be around 2 in the morning or just a bit before, as Brearley's sisters have said online, around that time of when we arrived and took them back home. 42 minutes later, then in Georgia, then with Melissa and Alicia going home. But I think it was Alicia that said in the Facebook Messenger conversation that it was around 3:15 once they were at the highway. How can you be at the highway at 3:15 in the morning, anticipating to get a hold of Georgia to then go on back home to then call Kaden? 3:15. Kaden Pressy said Alicia called Kaden at 2:42 in the morning, saying we've got Georgia on the way home. And yet Alicia is saying, well, by 3:15, we're on the highway ready to collect her or to pick her up in some way. How can that be possible at 3:15 if an hour or a bit more earlier, Georgia was already with you and you were on the way home? And maybe it's what Kaden says compared to what Alicia says and there's discrepancy. Now, the call log shows at 2:42 Alicia called Kaden. And it just happens Kaden had said previously, well, at 2:42 my phone was ringing, I woke up, noticed the time, and Alicia told me about the news. So you can tie what Kaden says about that time and that event occurring with the actual call log of Alicia's, and it matches. So for Alicia to say at 3:15, anything after 2:42 about getting to the highway seems like complete BS. Because from what Kaden says about the call at 2:42 by Alicia already had Georgia and they were on the way home. So why would they be waiting for Georgia at the highway at 3:15 if they already had him at 2:42? Unless at 2:42 a call was made by Alicia, but it wasn't about Georgia, it was about something else. We got the call logs, we got the hard evidence that yes, Kaden was woken up possibly at 2:42 because that's the time and that's the time of the call made by Alicia to Kaden. But the contents of that call we don't know of. Kaden Pressy has told us, but that's his words, which could be considered hearsay. The timing of the call could be factual based off the call log, but the details of the call could be hearsay, meaning it could have been about other stuff, meaning at 3:15, then maybe it's more true that when Georgia was picked up, but it wouldn't make sense because it still conflicts with what Brearley's sister said about 2 in the morning when they left. When leaving at 2 in the morning or just a bit before, it's not going to take an hour or so to cover that much distance down the highway to then pass by Melissa and Alicia. Doesn't make much sense there. And even if 3:15 was true, when picking up Georgia or waiting to then go on home and then make a call to Kaden, and if 2:42 was true, as in a call was made earlier but about different stuff, it would mean after 3:15 another call would have had to have been made, possibly, for Alicia to say to Kaden, hey, we've got Georgia now, as Kaden said in his interview. That doesn't seem likely. So just to clear it up once again, 2:42 call made by Alicia towards Kaden. Kaden woken up by it at the party, notices things around him and who's present supposedly. Details of the call by Kaden's own words are Georgia on the way home with Alicia and Melissa. But when Alicia in that Facebook Messenger convo with another person privately had said we got there at 3:15 to collect Georgia makes no sense. So, whilst Kathy hadn't gone into depth about that in the call, I've just brought it up now. Extremely important. This video could be long, it is long, and we're only in the introduction of this video. We haven't even got onto the second page or the other sheet of papers for notes. So apologies about the length, but this is what I mean. My analysis and my memory will latch on to other points to try and understand and interpret what Kathy is getting at, such as with Alicia talking about following Kaden at the party. At the party, following, probably digitally, probably that Life 360 app or something similar. When monitoring Georgia, Kaden's whereabouts, is he following her or not? You let me know if you agree or disagree down below. Added on to that, Kathy gave the other example of, well, from what Alicia had said about Kaden Pressy, said he called on his way home to Alicia about Noah dying, possibly around 6 in the morning. Alicia, quoted that from Kaden's mouth. More so, you could interpret it as Alicia is putting words into Kaden's mouth, because Kaden has never mentioned about driving home crying and calling his mom Alicia, announcing the news of Noah's death. In Kaden's own words, in the Partners in True Crime interview at 7 in the morning, September 4th, 2023, Kaden left the house because he was told by Renee Millan to leave, supposedly, even though Renee says she never said that. Kaden left in his vehicle, taking Mikey, Brylan and Isaac back home, like a taxi service. Close to or around or approaching Duncan, dropping them off one or so by one. Mikey, the last one to be dropped off. Brylan and I believe Isaac dropped off together at one another's house, hanging out maybe. And then by 8:10 in the morning, Kaden got home, found out that his mom, dad, Alicia, were up and awake earlier than usual or so, arguing about who's making breakfast. Then Kaden announced the news of Noah's death. Yeah, Alicia is saying Kaden called me or us about it at 6 in the morning whilst driving and upset. Why does Alicia say that from what Kaden says when Kaden hasn't said it himself, neither in the Partners in True Crime interview nor the police interview, the private one? Sounds like Alicia is changing details. Is she changing details to back up what she accidentally said? Maybe. Before? Maybe, depending on the timing and what order it happened in. When Alicia made a public comment on Facebook on a post about, 6 in the morning, I, as in Alicia, contacted OHP about Noah's death. Why would Alicia be doing that if Kaden had said he told Alicia, his mom, the news of Noah's death at 8:10 in the morning, meaning anything before 8:10, Alicia and husband would not know anything about it, likely. So it seems like Alicia slipping up, making a mistake, maybe. 6 in the morning, that's when Kaden told me, that's when I told the police. Adding in with the Facebook Messenger of, and Kaden made that call to me at 6 in the morning, hence why I knew about it, hence why I contacted police. But even if that was true, why would Alicia have to contact police if Kaden Pressy could himself? A bit weird. And if it was been made apparent that police have already been contacted, or Kaden already felt that police were contacted, depending on the timing, there'd be no need for Alicia to call. And is there any proof or hard evidence call logs of Alicia calling at 6 in the morning? No, not from what I can remember. I mean, in terms of the timings, it kind of skips ahead. You got like 1 something in the morning, 1:40, 1:42, 1:45, round about that, close together, a few different calls made. I think 1 or 2 calls made to Kaden when Alicia was like, contact me now, because if you don't, I'll contact Melissa next. And that was at 1:51 in the morning, I think. Then the next one after 1:51, I think it jumped to 2:42 in the morning, right? The Georgia on the way home situation makes more sense that. 1:51, contacting Melissa. Melissa Alicia, 40-45 minutes to get down to the highway or so, maybe tying in line with the 2:42 time next when contacting Kaden about Georgia on the way home, not the 3:15 bollocks, right? But then after 2:42, what was the next call made? I can't remember, but it did jump a little bit. And I don't remember seeing any call by Alicia at 6 in the morning. So if Alicia was, yeah, I'm sure I've already debunked it already in a previous video. I just didn't do a focused one about it. But if Alicia was truly saying at 6 in the morning, I contacted OHP about Noah's death. First of all, how did you find out about it? Is that a mistake, a slip up? But you mentioned in Facebook Messenger, oh, because Kaden contacted me at that time or close to, crying about it. So then I thought I'd contact police myself. Or it backs up your Facebook comment then, protecting yourself there so it doesn't make you look as dodgy or making a mistake. But if we go back to the origins, you go back to the origins of all things, where it starts from, the call log. I don't remember seeing a call by Alicia at 6 in the morning. And if she's the one that makes outwards call to police, it would say 6 in the morning and give a phone number, such as the police, whatever phone number it is. But I don't remember seeing that. So it means Alicia did not call police at that time, because likely Alicia wouldn't have known at that time, because Kaden said it was 8:10 when he got back and told Alicia about Noah's death. So Alicia shouldn't really know before that, unless it was like some group chat or conversation with other party goers or communication with anybody else, maybe. But Alicia's wording it as if Kaden told me about it first. And that's true, Kaden probably told you about it first, but at a later time, not 6. So we've got major, massive problems there, not looking good. Now, besides that example what Kathy referenced, Kathy Bingham said, what the fuck is Alicia doing? And maybe other people will have that mindset as well. All I would say is, I don't know why Alicia is being this way or doing this stuff or said this stuff previously when Kaden hasn't himself. Kaden, if any of it was true, Kaden should be the one to say it, public or private. For Alicia to do the bidding and talking, taking over, it can go wrong at times, maybe a bit reckless. And some interpret it as it's completely changed and twisted from what Kaden had said. It has a knock-on effect. If you're going to be someone's personal representative of someone, you got to make sure that you present them in the right way. And if you're talking on behalf of somebody else as like an informant, a messenger, you make sure that that message is delivered very clear, crystal, and maybe word for word. Because if it's not, Chinese whispers can come about. Not always intentional, accidental. But if it's only coming from your mouth, you've heard the message, you pass the message on, and it's instantly drastically different, well then, clearly, you're responsible for that. If it's such as you hear a message, you pass it on, then you pass it on to someone else, and they pass it on, then they pass it on, then they pass it on, it can change along the way, the recount of stuff, and more so accidental Chinese whispers. But if it changes immediately from one person to another, something dodgy going on there. So does anyone else think, like Kathy, what the F is going on? Why is she doing it? Let me know. What we do have to acknowledge, though, is some of this dodgy stuff and examples by Alicia, lies or discrepancies, as bad as they appear, just remember they were a part of a private conversation, a DM, direct message, Facebook Messenger, meaning it wasn't intended for the general public to know about it. You can still say, well, why would Alicia be saying it anyway? It's in her mind, it's attitude, the mentality behind it, the motive still appears sinister and maybe dark and controlling and harming Kaden's credibility. Yes, but it was a private conversation, just like when it comes to supposed threats of other people, when a threat might actually be more so a joke, and it's an inside joke privately where two people or more would understand it and find it funny, but the outsider, the one that's on the receiving end of that supposed threat or joke, will interpret it just as a threat because they don't have the context, they don't have that connection or bond as the two of us doing a conversation elsewhere privately. When something's private, it's not meant for public use or viewing. But other things and additional stuff can be said privately, and it might not always be serious, it might not always be meant, and sometimes private conversations may come across more informal, may come across more unprofessional, additional language and wording and swearing, and all of the times in the public view and public sight you might be well dressed, you might appear really clean with your words and everything that you say and your outlook. But then if you have a private conversation with someone on a call or text message or private convo in real life, they might let their hair down because they're more relaxed, comfortable with someone. If that gets released or exposed, it's going to make them look much worse, but it's just because they're in their natural habitat and being themselves completely and letting their hair down. But the full context of how they are there compared to how they would act and what they would say in a public setting can differ greatly. So to return back to when Kathy Bingham says, why is Alicia smearing Kaden's name everywhere? Smearing it as in Kaden's here, there and everywhere with every event that follows and bad and good that comes with it in the case and investigation. Oh, Kaden's impacted here, Kaden's impacted there, Kaden did this here, Kaden did this there. And it's all Kaden this and that. That could be considered smearing it, especially if it didn't happen either, but smearing it to make it sound far worse and more drastic and more extreme and more emotional and manipulative to gain support, favour and leniency and gain from it in some way. I get that, what Kathy might be indirectly referring, but the examples that Kathy has mentioned and that unknown person, they are from that conversation on Facebook Messenger, I believe, a private conversation. All that what I saw, I've never seen before. I've never seen it public before. But it's private conversation, leaked or revealed by the other person communicating with Alicia at the time. Alicia probably unaware, not wanting it to be released public, but another person having other ideas to help the general public learn. And even though you could say, well, it was leaked, it was revealed, not a good thing, it does help the general public learn a lot more. It's very helpful, very beneficial, but at the same time I can understand it how it might impact Alicia or cause problems there, and connections and reports breaking down and trust issues on top of previous ones and the whole Dropbox. But you know, if there's major concerns and red flags, they do need to be shown public in some way. Even if it's private and it was never going to be said public, for Alicia to say what she said, which we've never seen or heard before public, nor from Kaden's point of view, it is concerning, and it does make you think and look back on, well, anything Alicia has said public, which is different to Kaden, could it follow the same BS outcome as possibly those private Facebook messages? You never know. So we do need to go back over it, but to be smearing it, if Kathy Bingham's referring to smearing it public, as in Alicia smearing Kaden's name public, not quite, it was private, and then it was released by other people, just to get that clear. Moving on, Kathy Bingham, Kaden Pressy never said that, nor Alicia. Oh yeah, what was that about? What's she doing? I think it was just linking on with some additional points that I made. Apologies about that. Kaden Pressy never said that. Oh yeah, I guess talking about on his way home, I guess, crying and that. The unknown person added on saying, he, Kaden Pressy, would have been a lot better off if Alicia never inserted herself. So if Kaden was allowed to talk during the interviews, parts in true crime, without being interrupted, cleaner, clearer, without any interference. Kaden, possibly on Facebook, YouTube, which other people have said, is there a conspiracy? Is there some kind of darkness going on where when a Kaden has shown up under his account on YouTube, Kaden Pressy, username, it was actually Alicia logged in because of the language and wording used didn't sound familiar as to what Kaden would say or do. So it could have been Alicia behind the account or signed in at the time. Bit weird. Why would you do that? Monitoring, tracking, but under another identity, so then you can gain people's trust. If you announce yourself, oh yeah, hi, I'm Alicia, people are probably going to respond to you differently compared to if it was behind Kaden, or you behind Kaden. Be addressed, treated differently, possibly more lenient compared to Alicia if people have got a negative outlook of Alicia, but more of a lenient outlook towards Kaden than Alicia. If to go behind under the account of Kaden, would be able to get better communication out of general public just by that. So you've got to be cautious, got to be careful there. It would have been a lot better off. So I keep forgetting to do it, but if I was to do a poll, or if people was to answer, as you who's watching right now, and drop a comment down below and let me know yes or no. Do you think that Kaden Pressy would have been better off in this case investigation if Alicia did not insert herself, such as online or in interviews? Would Kaden be better off? I'd say yes, definitely. But it doesn't mean to say it would make him any more innocent. And what I mean by that is that police interview that was to do with the Dropbox, supposed to be passed on to the attorney, but Alicia decided to share it with some people, and some of those people then leaked it, revealed it public, and Alicia said that's hacking, but it's not, it's leaking more so. You put your trust, ensure you trust within someone with sensitive material, and those people turn on you, disrespect it, and stab you in the back. Unfortunate for Alicia, more unfortunate for Kaden because he didn't ask for any of that. And because of Kaden's details in the interview and how it completely differs from the Partisan True Crime public interview details and times not quite adding up, it made Kaden look dodgy and stand out even more than before. So Alicia's actions costed Kaden's credibility to some extent. And I guess it's had a knock-on effect since. That's unfortunate on Kaden, but it benefited the general public in learning and understanding about stuff for which we would never have known of before if it hadn't been revealed. So it being revealed public enabled us to learn more, which is a positive for us, but not a positive for Kaden. However, if it wasn't released public or leaked, if Alicia didn't share it with anyone, Kaden would have been better off in that regard, absolutely. But it would have remained a secret, those discrepancies. The general public would have been completely blind to the discrepancies and the standouts. So Kaden would have appeared more innocent, but not truly. Does that make sense? And I mean innocent in regard to consistency and accuracy of timelines and events. The police one does not match well with the Partisan True Crime one. It doesn't look good. But if only one or the other existed public, but we didn't have the other one to compare it with, you just go along with it and think, okay, that's all we've got. We'll go along with it. Kaden's telling the truth. You'd be ignorant. Ignorant, but not like in a negative way of yourself. You just wouldn't know. Oblivious. So Kaden may appear more innocent and more consistent, but he's really not. So the outcome, the positives are we learned more, it helped us. It just didn't help Kaden. And Alicia is the enabling factor of that to some extent, right? So that clears that up there. Kathy Bingham, I believe, moving on to it's the unknown person. I'm just changing the sheet over because there's more points added on. The unknown caller said to Kathy Bingham, or added on in quotes, saying, I think she, as in Alicia, knows something. Kathy Bingham basically agreed. As in what? Alicia knows something about Kaden. Alicia knows something about the case. It would be very interesting considering that Alicia wasn't even at the party, nowhere near at the actual time of when things happened. Maybe on the highway, but that's about it. And not at the time of Noah's death, from the looks of it. So why would Alicia know something, and how would she know something? Does she know something that others don't? Do the police know them? Does Alicia know something which could link onto who's actually responsible in the case? Or does Alicia know something and she's protecting someone? Hence why stories are changing. What's really going on? It's just an opinion, a thought by this unknown caller, what they think, not what they know, and non-evidence either. And Kathy sharing her own opinion, agreeing as well. Got to make that clear. Unknown caller then says she has slipped, as in Alicia. Example, said that she called OHP at 6 in the morning. Kathy Bingham said, wow. I could be wrong, but based off that reaction, wow, sounds like you're surprised. And if you're surprised or shocked, it's because you weren't expecting it. And if you weren't expecting it, it means you've not heard or seen or felt it before. Hence the shock, surprise factor. Could be wrong. Might just be just a loose language and wording, but I try to be specific myself. Other people are very reckless with their wording and language. It can lead to me misunderstanding stuff, and then other people have the cheek to say, how dare you, Raf, interpret this way? Sorry, I'm just going by definitions, okay? I like to be somewhat realistic. I like to be somewhat accurate. If we want to be really loose with language and wording, with everything in life, then it will just lose its meaning. Hence why I use and reserve words at certain times and moments with certain people, because it has more depth and meaning and impact then. I choose when to use it, a lot more controlled than other people are. Just thought I'd add that in as a reference for that consistency factor, like what I've said in the past. But, you know, yeah, we've already made reference now about Alicia claiming on Facebook comment section of a post, case discussion page, or a different one, or the justice one, who knows, but I saw it with my own eyes as well at the time. Was it deleted, the comment? Don't think so. Was it edited? Yes. Alicia edited it from calling OHP at 6 in the morning to, oh no, I called OHP after 6 in the morning. Yeah, after 6 in the morning. Because what? Because Kaden didn't actually tell you at 6 in the morning or before? But Kaden wasn't calling. Alicia has completely contradicted herself there, just like that, previously. Contradiction, back and forth, absolute mess. And still, regardless of what time you supposedly contacted OHP, even if it was 8:10 in the morning when Kaden got back to tell you the news, I mean, do we have the call logs to say at 8:10 in the morning a call was made to police? Not that I'm aware of, nor 6 in the morning. No calls made, from the looks of it. And to be honest, why would Alicia have to go out of her way to contact police about a location which she was never at, as in the party, more so, and the timing? But surely, anyone or everyone or someone at least that was at the party would have been competent enough to make the call. And if not that, just that if 6 in the morning Kaden was already aware and made the call to Alicia and broke down, why would Alicia need to contact police if Kaden knew already before Alicia? And that's because it may link back to what exactly? Even though we're talking about 5:15, and that's just a bit of a weird situation. But if Kaden Pressy did know, and the timeline was at 5:15, but 6 in the morning when making a call and already on the way home, makes no sense, because Kaden said he was leaving at 7 in the morning, not 6. Kaden said that at 6:30 is when Renee arrived at the house, and Kaden was still at the house. He wouldn't have even left by then. So contradiction upon contradiction, absolute mess. Don't want to go on too far because it might confuse people. I've got it all under control in my mind, but I know it might be a bit messy with other people and trying to keep up with it all in the times and stamps and all that. But let's eradicate the 5:15 timeline, and let's just say from 5:43 onwards and 5:53, the first official calls are made by Tyler H and Tyler Hardy. Then at 6 in the morning onwards, if Kaden's alerted by the news from Jack returning to the house after 6, maybe after 6:05 after calling his father Caleb to return back to the party house, fishing trip stopped because of what's happened. Getting back to the house, 6:15, around that, telling what's happened, telling Kaden and the others, would make more sense there. But if Kaden was told around that time, is that why then he contacted Alicia at that time as well, or around about? And it's true what Alicia says, but it can't be, because we've seen the other stuff and it just counters one another. I'm just trying to give alternative scenarios just to try and be lenient towards these dodgy type of people, right? But even when I'm trying to be as lenient as possible, it can't undo the damage what they've caused, or the confusion, or the suspicion, right? And that really says a lot, doesn't it? So, besides that, moving on, Kathy Bingham in quotes, I had an interesting interview, and this was in a different tone of voice. I interpreted it as a bit sarcastic / intriguing. I had an interview, a very interesting interview with Kaden Pressy. He was willing to talk. That's kind of like how Kathy Bingham was speaking, but I can't quite do the accent, and I'm not even going to try because I'm sure some people will get their pants in a twist. But yeah, an interesting interview with Kaden. Kaden later in this, I don't think it's the same call. I think this call with an unknown individual, member of the general public and community of the case, contacting or calling Kathy Bingham and recording the call and then sharing it afterwards, which may not be by consent of Kathy Bingham, which is problematic to some extent, maybe, But who knows if Kathy Bingham's recording her end of the call as well? You never know. It could be both ways. But the bit about Kaden, because Kaden does talk later on, there is a transition, there is a break in audio, a silence. I'm thinking that maybe two have been pieced together as a compilation, not at the same time, at different points, but branched together from Kathy's point of view, referring to Kaden, referring to an interview with Kaden, and then Kaden responds to that, but at a different time, and it's just been pieced together in this little compilation video in regard to Facebook, just so you can hear it from both points of views in some way. So I'm guessing this interview, what Kathy's referring to, an interesting interview with Kaden. Kaden adds on to it later. Correct me if I'm wrong. We'll get to that shortly, but don't go anywhere. He was willing to talk, on and on and on. Well, that would be a good thing, right? But later on, Kathy does mention what was actually mentioned to some brief extent, and it doesn't sound that promising. But anyway, Kathy Bingham said in quotes, Kaden Pressy told Alicia, oh yeah, so I guess as in regard to the build-up or what was going to happen with the interview between Kaden and Kathy, and Kaden beforehand told Alicia about what he was going to do, where he was going. Then I guess Kaden relayed that to Kathy Bingham for Kathy to know about it. So Kaden Pressy told Alicia he was heading over to Kathy Bingham's office, I guess, for an interview. And Alicia, the mom, warned Kaden, don't let her run you or run over you. I guess take advantage, put you in an awkward position, manipulate, twist your words, put words into your mouth, things like that, which might have happened in the police interview of June 2024 when the police guy was implying to Kaden, you were there Friday, weren't you? Or you could have been. If you were there at a certain time, you likely would have been there early anyway, and you probably would have been there for the whole party, likely, yeah? And Kaden's like, yeah, I was. Outsider influencer effect, not natural, bit forceful, a little bit unprofessional. For Alicia to say and to warn Kaden to be careful clearly shows still from back in 2023, I think it was, or in that little conversation with whoever, if you remember, it would have been 2023, I think. I could be wrong, but it could be, because I'm thinking of that TikTok live stream interview with One Crime at a Time, doing a live stream with Noah Presgrove, family members, Deborah Smith, grandmother, Robin Smith, and I think Ashley Chadwick, the cousin, and Kaden Pressy coming round to visit, to drop something off or to collect something, not knowing, but then appearing in that live stream, tagging along, answering questions, whatnot. Kaden, odd one out because the rest of the females drinking alcohol, bit pissed maybe, didn't look professional, criticism online. But Alicia was tagging along either in person or digitally joining the live stream as well. And it was a bit weird that for Alicia to be on that live stream with Noah's family when a few weeks or days or whatever in the same year of 2023 before hand of the live stream, Alicia said in the same sentence with Kathy Bingham's name with Noah Presgrove's family, Alicia does not trust them. And if you don't trust them, then why are you tagging along maybe with Kaden, or at least why are you digitally tagging along and then joining the live stream? Is it because you're there for Kaden and you don't trust Noah's family, hence why you were there? Because ever since it's been a bit lovey-dovey, making up and, oh yeah, this person's nice, oh that person's nice. Yet Alicia didn't trust Noah's family in the early days. And you can say, well, you can understand that. It can make sense. Trust issues from the past, sinking in now, being careful, being protective, just in case anything goes wrong, fair enough. But to say you don't trust them to then appear on a live stream as well, and maybe friendly, what's really going on? And to not trust Kathy Bingham whatsoever in the early days because of going behind her back, suppose as Alicia claims with her son, it makes more sense here as to why Alicia warned Kaden, don't let her run over you, as in, because I don't trust her, as in, I've already mentioned that I don't trust her in the past, so I don't trust her still. And I want you, my son Kaden, to be careful. So the timeline without actual times given or from my memory collection, it adds in terms of the order of that cautiousness, showing that Alicia is still cautious till this day, or more so recent time in 2025 compared to 2023. Yeah, compared, as in it's been consistent in some way. Now, the trust factor between Alicia and Noah's family, has that changed? I don't know. It's made out to be all okay and fine, but is it really? When there's a breakdown in communication, a lack of it at times when it's really needed. That's how I interpret it, okay? And, let me know if you interpret it any other way. For Kaden to, be warned, don't let Kathy run you over. For Kathy to know about that, Kaden would have told Kathy. So it says a lot about what Kaden thinks maybe of his mom Alicia, for that private talk and private prep and warning, for then to say, oh yeah, and Kathy, yeah, my mom told me to be careful about you because you could run me over, but don't worry, I said to her, I won't let her run me over. Private conversation between mother and son about the person you're going to be interviewed by, and then you pass it on to that interviewer. Interesting dynamics, of course. Moving on, Kathy Bingham mentioned in regard to the interview, I have everything recorded and video recording as well. Was Kaden aware of that? Maybe, likely. If this is the same interview what Kaden refers to later in the video piece compilation, then it makes sense in some way. Yeah, but we'll get to that a bit later. Kathy Bingham mentions in regards to the interview that did take place with Kaden Pressy, the interview was interesting, as Kathy said, and Kaden was willing to talk on and on and on and on, but everything that he said was the exact same as what he said previously. That there was nothing new, no new details, no new updates. Now, I find that a little bit hard to believe in a way. Kathy Bingham saying that Kaden Pressy said the same exact thing. As in when? As in how many times? As in how much? Everything that was said in that interview was the exact same thing. The reason why I find that hard to believe, when Kaden Pressy, when we look at the private police interview to the Parts in True Crime interview, massive inconsistencies, discrepancies. Is it either this or is it that? Is it that time? Is it that time? Was there 30, 40 people on the Sunday night, or was it Friday and Saturday? Did you get there on Saturday or did you get there Friday? What's going on? And more and more. And a bit more in recent time, a few months back now, when Alicia had mentioned in the past on Parts in True Crime, private interview, never released, speaking on behalf of Kaden besides her, when Alicia said Kaden's phone was taken in by police eventually. It was analysed. The GeoNet or the geofence backed up Kaden's 515 timeline, and it's factual and it's all sorted and good. Kaden Pressy, more in recent times, said police never got my phone, police never took my phone, police never analysed it. So obviously not a big deal. Well, Alicia says one thing, Kaden says the other. Massive discrepancies. And yet Kathy Bingham is saying that Kaden, exclusively Kaden only, has been consistent and said the same exact thing over and over again, or at least from one interview to a previous one. I said it's vague. Maybe it's true what Kathy says in a previous interview, or before that Kaden has said the same things as he said in this interview of whenever in 2025. But that's only that part, right? And in terms of Kaden being consistent and saying the same exact stuff as he said before that, depending on what interview that's from what Kathy has heard herself before or from other points of views, what was the same stuff Kaden was talking about exactly? When all I seem to feel is discrepancy after discrepancy after discrepancy, what is consistent anymore? When Kathy says, Kaden says the same exact thing, what is that thing? Is it one thing? Is it multiple things? Is it to do with 5:15? Is it to do with 6:30? Is it to do with 7 in the morning? Is it to do with 8:10 in the morning? Is it to do with the timing of when the Sunday night of when Georgia arrived? What is it to do with? Is it the same exact times given? Is it the same exact events given? The same exact names given? It's too vague. And I only question it because I find it hard to believe when Kaden has been inconsistent along the way. And we've seen it with our own eyes. Yet Kaden says the same exact thing as what and when and what interview. What are we comparing it to? For me, I'm comparing it to other stuff. If Kathy is comparing it to what she's previously seen, heard, or interviewed with Kaden, it might be the same there, but it's not the same elsewhere when you compare contrast, is it? Got to be making that very clear. Moving on, Kathy Bingham says, Kaden Pressy said if he had to wear a wire, he would to catch them. Catch who? This particular interview, for Kathy to know about that in regard to what Kaden is willing to do, shortly we get on to Kaden's point of view where he describes and explains the context behind wearing a wire, which is brought up to Kathy Bingham face-to-face, meaning this interview, what we're hearing about with the unknown caller, hearing it from Kathy Bingham's point of view of an interview that took place, and the call taking place in, of when? End of April 2025. At some point, April 2025, towards the end. Kaden Pressy's interview with Kathy Bingham, April 25th, 2025. Supposedly the same thing. So this interview that Kathy's referring to when Kaden was in her presence, what Kaden talks about shortly is to do with this same thing. It's the same exact thing from the looks of it. Just wanted to make that clear. So based off that, Kaden willing to wear a wire. What does that mean? Well, the rough definition is a concealed mic done in a covert way. It's a hidden microphone or some kind of audio which can record voices and whatnot, like if you were having an interview. But it's not really to the knowledge of the person on the receiving end who might be talking and answering questions and giving out details. It's done in a covert way. It is sneaky, it is sly, but you can understand in certain moments a hidden recording may be needed to get natural results, to get a natural answer. If you go into a room with someone and you need answers from, or a confession, and you say to him, hi, I've got a microphone here, I'm going to shove it in your mouth and I want you to answer, are they going to give the same exact response compared to if you used to walk into the room, have a casual conversation, or at least make it appear that, but you've actually got a microphone, small one, hidden somewhere? As long as they are responsible for something, and as long as they know it's not being, there's no surveillance, it's not being monitored, it's not being tracked, no one about, nothing recording, nothing being picked up, and you can trust just that person to listen to you speaking, you might say a lot more. That's why a wire can be used and it can be helpful. But of course, if it ever backfires, goes wrong, and the other person finds out about it, you could be in danger. Like if you're interviewing gangs, if you're trying to interview some terrorist, some hierarchy, some gang, some leader, whatever crime, terrorist, sneaking on in like media, but not making yourself clear or known to get a genuine, natural response at the cost of misusing their trust. And if it backfires, you can be in danger, and it can have knock-on effects. That's just a little definition, backstory behind that. But Kaden Pressy, interesting. Kaden Pressy said as if Kathy Bingham was saying Kaden told her that, but from what Kaden says, Kaden said it wasn't me that said that to Kathy, but Kathy was in the same room as him when Netflix producers were the ones responsible for that. Netflix producers interview Kathy, Kaden, Netflix. What? We'll get to that shortly. Hold on. I just wanted to give you a bit of context before we move on to the next point. So for Kaden, willing to go the extra mile, to go covert, to get and catch them. No names mentioned by Kathy. Really weird. Unknown person responds with catch Colton and them, etc. Why is Colton's name being brought up? Besides the videos that I've done in recent time, for good reason. What, because of Colton, his threats in the past? Because Colton on that Snapchat said, oh yeah, I was at the party. Person of interest maybe. Person not looked into deep enough. and that's why the unknown caller made a reference to Colton's name. Who knows? Kathy Bingham said yes, as in yeah, to catch Colton. That's how it was worded. That's how the conversation went. But moving on, slowly we're getting there. Kathy Bingham said, I don't know if Colton is involved in Noah's case. Involved as in Noah's death. So it's like an opinion, but also a level of uncertainty. I just don't know if Colton Newton, Jack Newton's older brother, is involved in Noah's death. Kathy Bingham does say, but a girl is involved. Involved in the death of Noah, involved in witnessing the death of Noah, involved in what? The disposing of Noah's body? Could be one or the other, right? If that's the case, does it link to anything what we've heard of before? Only an opinion, a theory between a conversation DM with Alicia and Justin Roy, where Alicia mentioned golf clubs and said, I think, or it could have been where Carter Combs went up or ran up to Noah and whacked him on the back of the head and then ran away. And then other people finished him off. Hence a girl being involved. Hence why Kathy Bingham says about a girl involved. Depends how you look at it. The next thing mentioned by Kathy is, she says, I think they, more than one person involving a girl, they killed Noah on the front porch. That close to the house, that close to the door. On the other side, party goers and Kaden, completely oblivious, unaware to what's going on just outside. Windows all about, but drowned out by other noise maybe. And if windows are closed or curtains are drawn, no one's going to see. But if it was on the front porchway, so close, so nearby, take in mind the only significant thing I can think of in terms of the front porchway, besides the supposed girls, Carter and Avery sisters arguing amongst one another after Noah going missing, whatever that's about, and it being recorded by someone nearby, which is weird, which we've not seen footage of at the moment. Kaden Pressy said at around 6:30 in the morning onwards, post-news of Noah's death, when Kaden Pressy was going outside for some reason, on the front porch way, there was like a pool, a patch of wetness, a big wet patch. What caused that? When was it there? Is it fresh? Would it have dried up? If Noah was killed on the front porch, was that wet patch what Kaden saw later on, a link to it? But take in mind, Kaden only acknowledged it at 6:30 onwards in the morning. If Noah had died before 5:15, before Kaden was woken up and leaving the house to go down to the highway, if there was a wet patch earlier, you would think that Kaden, when leaving at 5:15, when exiting through the front door porch way, you would notice the wet patch in front of you, right? If it wasn't there then, but it was later on, after Noah's death, well then it couldn't link, could it, to what we're reading about Kathy Bingham. But I'm just giving you reference points to the significance of the porchway. The only other thing would be is there is a Ring doorbell camera on the front door of the porchway. If that doorbell camera was working, not only would it have picked up, debunked or reinforced a argument between sisters Avery and Carter on the front porchway, it would have shown Noah's murder on the front porch as well, with the camera pointing at it. But the camera supposedly wasn't working. Yeah. Take in mind what Kathy Bingham says is an opinion, not a fact. I think they killed him on the front porch. Does Kathy Bingham mean, I think Noah was killed on the front porch? You're not too sure about the location, but you know he's murdered. Or do you mean that I think that Noah was killed? I think he was murdered. And I think it was the front porchway. It depends how you interpret that wording. But before that, when Kathy said, I don't know if Colton is involved, but a girl is involved, To be involved in something and for no one to come forth since could imply foul play, could imply dodginess, darkness, and possible higher chances of murder to some extent. Of course, if there was an accident and a girl was involved but did not come forwards because they were too scared, or they felt they would get in trouble if they did come forwards, or they were threatened by somebody else to stay quiet, there's different factors to take in mind there. But if a girl is involved, to be involved in Noah's death sounds or could be interpreted as some kind of murder, some kind of cover-up. For Kathy to be unsure and to give an opinion about, I think Noah was killed on the front porchway, but to say that a girl was involved as a fact, what's the deal here? You think Noah was killed, or you know Noah was killed, but you think it was on the front porch. You're not quite sure, but you do know that a girl is involved. When you say it over and over again, you might interpret it in different ways. Just wanted to make that clear there. And what girl? Which girl would be involved or could be involved? Would it be Avery, because of the last known event and the tension there and the supposed threat of, you know, if I find out about this or that, or you with Logan or sleeping with Logan, I will kill you, even though it may have not been meant, you know, some kind of things there, or Noah supposedly calling out Avery in front of other people, calling him a fat beeb, and what wanted revenge from that. Depends how you look at it, but it's what Kathy Bingham has been saying, whether you believe her or not, just simply relaying. Kathy Bingham said, oh yeah, this is adding on to what Kathy supposedly thinks, and we can do this as a map analysis someday. Kathy thinks that Noah was killed by more than one person on the front porch at the party house. Then they got Noah Presgrove's body in a side-by-side, or the side-by-side, maybe the one that did roll over earlier, drove down the pasture, which is round the back of the house, same place which Jack referenced as where the rollover occurred, when Noah was still alive. And then Kathy said that's when they laid Noah out. Laid him out. There's different ways of interpreting that, I think. Laying somebody out, as in laying them flat out on the ground, such as the highway. Maybe that's what Kathy was referring to. Or lay him out, or was the other reference lay into them? Laying into someone with words or physicality. Maybe I'm thinking of a different variation of sentence. Laid out, as in what? Well, to say that you killed on the front porch, you're dead already. So to be laid out in any other way, there'd be no need, unless it's for that overkill, for those extensive additional injuries. But my original concept was in a side-by-side, driving off to then lay Noah out on the highway, staging it, moving the body on, tampering, tying back to what people on like the Army page and what Justin Roy was getting at in some way. Okay, fair enough. And that's what Kathy Bingham says of all people. Still an opinion from the looks of it. Not great, but interesting at least. The side-by-side used. Now, was that side-by-side, if it was used, was that particular one dealt with by police, analysed for anything? Was it cleaned down or not? And why would they take the pasture route and not round the front? If Noah was already killed on the bloody front porchway next to the door, I think driving off isn't that big of a deal, unless just that the side-by-side was round the pasture anyway, because that's where it was last used, hence the side-by-side rollover. Quick, find a vehicle. Which vehicle did we use? Oh, well, we've got the side-by-side, round the back. Quick, round the back. Carrying Noah's body? Does that explain the blood loss then, as like what other people were giving counterpoints to? Of course, people said, no, the reason why there's not enough blood loss, even though there's still a pool of blood near Noah's body on the highway, is because of the type of injuries, the type of death and impact and killed on spot. So there's less blood to be, you know, to come out and stuff. But original people were saying, yeah, but no, there's just no blood, not enough blood, more so. The other blood must be somewhere. If what Kathy Bingham says in regard to the porchway, dying, killing there, well then, maybe that's where the rest of the blood is or was. Maybe the reference of the autopsy report of a piece or parts of a necklace chain, but not the full chain, could imply that the chain, part of it, was elsewhere. What, front porchway, where murdered? Possibly, depends. But there's only so much blood at the highway. The rest of the blood, what, all on the porch or along the grass, getting into the side-by-side when dragging the body, carrying the body. A lot of cleaning up to do, right? Tracing your steps back. But, you know, what was said stands out, quite shocking, of course, from Kathy Bingham's point of view. Now, we move on to Kaden Pressy. Like the audio transitions from Kathy to then Kaden, which seems like two separate pieces of audio at different times merged together. Kaden Pressy starts talking immediately, referring to the Netflix producer. If you remember in 2024, we had the whole Netflix debacle. Something to do with, I think, maybe Brooke Bounds, Carter and that side trying to get things moving to help benefit the case and to help Noah's family. Netflix documentary, eyes on the case, spread awareness and go from there. And Jan Fiorillo did not like it. Jan Fiorillo did a long paragraph on one of the Facebook pages inquiring about Netflix. Is this a good idea, you doing this? Looking at these four-party hosts, Logan, Avery, Carter and Jack, even though Jack doesn't actually live there, but he's still regarded as a host in Jan Fiorillo's eyes. But a week before that party, there was a previous one which broke rules and people called it in, or a person called it into police and no action was taken. Talking about the alcohol side. Is it going to focus more on the victim, Noah, the true one, or the party goers and what they've been through? Is it going to change the narrative? Is it going to paint it in a different way? Is it going to be manipulative, emotional language to paint the host, the ones responsible for Noah's death, as the true victims and not Noah? Is it going to overshadow the true justice and cause for the case? I think that's roughly what Jan Fiorillo was getting at in some way. We've done coverage of it in the past. And yet, Brooke Bounds Carter was just trying to, and some of us were trying to get some coverage and eyes on the case with Netflix, supposedly, but other people took it the wrong way. And yet, after that, complete silence. Didn't hear anything, but we did hear about Parts in True Crime supposedly doing their own documentary. That went quiet, they stepped away. Nothing since. And yet in 2025, around April, or at least just in 2025. 2024, Netflix announced, Parts in True Crime documentary recording announced, no updates, pure silence. And then in 2025, Kaden Pressy, in this call or conversation with someone, says, Netflix producer, at a house in Duncan where they do wrestling, a big house, that Kaden met with the Netflix producer and some other people or so at that location. Wow. Little update there, isn't it? Some movement, some stuff going on in the background. Is that why in 2025 Kaden Pressy has gone missing off the face of this digital earth? Why he's no longer present on the chats and Facebook and left groups because of this Netflix documentary, or anything with Kathy Bingham, or anything with things being leaked and then Kaden giving that chilling response at the end of what we're looking at today. Stick around for that. Could all link together, depending. So a Netflix producer, pretty big and important. Kaden meeting up with them at a house, doesn't know where exactly. Couldn't remember. And that Kaden would only do the interview with Netflix if everyone was there as well, being interviewed at the same time, or one after the other. As in Jack, as in Carter, Avery, Logan, Brylan. Everyone as in partygoers, people of interest. Not official, but people of interest in my eyes. And what Kaden would be referring to as well. Why should Kaden be the only one to do the interview? If other people are about, it could benefit Kaden in some way. Roughly what Kaden was getting at. However, Kaden Pressy did say they, Netflix producer, wouldn't allow it, but proposed wearing a wire. And a wire is what Kathy Bingham referred to when Kaden Pressy talked about it, or Kaden Pressy said that's what he was willing or going to do. For Kathy to know about that, Kaden would likely have to be in the same room, and Kaden was in the same room at some point, and Netflix as well. We get to that shortly. Willing to do it, to wear a wire. Kaden was okay with that. Netflix came up with that idea in the first place. It was their idea, not Kaden's, and Kaden was okay with it. Then Kaden Pressy said, the day at Kathy Bingham's office, talking, which could be what we were getting at with the previous notes when Kathy was referring to having a very interesting interview with Kaden, and he was talking and talking and talking. It sounds like the same thing to me. For this particular call that was leaked or shared with from the random person, general public online in a call with Kathy, which happened end of April 2025, reflecting back on what happened a bit before the end of April, which would be maybe April 25th, which is what Kaden's referring to now and reflecting upon at some point. Okay, just trying to make it as clear as possible. So at Kathy Bingham's office, talking as in like an interview, I'm guessing, Kaden said he only did that. He only had a talk or an interview with Kathy and met at her office because Kaden mentioned that the Netflix producers were gonna go shooting. As in what? First I interpreted it as shooting as in we're going to shoot a documentary. Shoot as in record, document, use a camera, video it. But no, not from how Kaden worded it, as in the Netflix producers are going to shoot guns. It gave an excuse for Kaden Pressy to ask if he could come with them, tag along with them, to be able to shoot his new pistol. Now, it could be interpreted... Oh, God, my hip clicked then. Apologies about that. My hip bone. Body's clicking. Been sat in a position for about 1 hour, 36 minutes. So, it can be interpreted in different ways depending on how Kaden structures his sentences. Either Kaden Pressy only did the interview and call with Kathy Bingham because he was more so interested in firing a new pistol handgun that he bought, and Netflix were going to shoot guns as well, so Kaden thought he would tag along so he gets to use that gun. A bit weird. The other way of interpreting it would be Kaden wanted to do an interview or talk with Kathy, but the only way you could gain access is through Netflix because Netflix were on the way down to there or nearby to shoot guns. Still doesn't make sense. And on top, interview Kathy in regard to the case. And Kaden Pressy thought, well, I can sneak in with that by saying, well, you know, could I shoot guns? Could I come with you to shoot guns and hang out? And whilst hanging out with you, with the excuse of shooting guns, it gives me the chance to be able to be at Kathy Bingham's office. I guess, maybe. To be at Kathy Bingham's office for Kaden Pressy to have an interview, to talk with Kathy, but to still be in the safe hands of the Netflix producers that are there as well as witnesses, because Kaden didn't want to be there by himself with Kathy because of having trust issues, maybe. Depends how you look at it as well. What else do we have? Which is we're going to shoot. Yeah, okay. Kaden Pressy then said about had to do interview with Kathy Bingham that Netflix was filming. He had to. Sounds like he didn't have much choice. He had to do an interview with Kathy Bingham. And Netflix was filming that interview. But Kathy Bingham says she recorded it as well, and a video as well. So did she have a phone or a camera pointing at Kaden and the Netflix camera crew or something? Or did Netflix record it and then pass on the footage, share it with Kathy Bingham? Depends how you look at it. But as Kaden says, this interview, this filming with Kathy Bingham and Kaden took place on April 25th, and that the call between Kathy Bingham and a member of the general public and part of the case community talking and reflecting on that interview was at the end of April, meaning April 25th when the interview with Kaden and Kathy took place. After April 25th, coming to the end of April, is when this call came about. Still recent time, of course. We're in May now. It's only just probably under a month as well, but you get what I'm saying. It's very close together. The closer it is together, the closer it is to Kaden going quiet online, working in the background from the looks of it. Interesting. So, moving on to the final notes. This is where it gets very, important. So make sure to listen in. Kathy Bingham said, I told them, Kaden Pressy, apologies, just make sure I'm very clear. Kaden Pressy, in quotes, said, I told them, as in Netflix, beforehand, before the interview taking place, before the recording and the shooting of it. Kaden said, I don't trust Kathy Bingham. Words said to the Netflix producers. But I would put my judgment aside for the sake of this, for a greater cause. That's good of Kaden. Interesting though, a very interesting contrast, because it was Alicia, wasn't it? Alicia saying she didn't trust Kathy Bingham in the past. And from what Kathy Bingham says in this interview, which Kaden was at and Netflix was at, Kaden told Kathy told us, well, told the unknown caller, which was then somehow shared with us publicly. Kathy mentioned how Kaden told her, from the looks of it, that Kaden had a conversation, or Alicia had a conversation with Kaden before he even set out to come here to that office, that make sure that she doesn't run over you. So Alicia not trusting Kathy, telling and warning Kaden. Did Kaden naturally have trust issues towards Kathy? Hence why Kaden said to the Netflix crew before the recording that he didn't trust Kathy? Or is it more so what Kaden said about not trusting Kathy and putting judgment aside is because of that influence by Alicia, in which Alicia, before Kaden leaving to go to do the interview, Alicia said to Kaden, don't let her run over you, be careful. It put doubt, it casted a seed of doubt or a seed of cautiousness and concern and alertness and an extra layer of trust issues. Depends how you look at it. Either Kaden just didn't trust Kathy to begin with, or over time, Alicia's lack of trust towards Kathy and not trusting Kathy, and then Alicia feeding that into Kaden, the son's mind of don't trust her, she's bad news, this and that. Could have led to brainwashing, indoctrination. It could have been a microcosm of many other things in which Kaden Pressy has said stuff and then Alicia says something different, and then Kaden Pressy says something different, and there's discrepancies and it doesn't quite link together, but there is some kind of indoctrination going on, you know, a form of compliance, a form of conditioning of the mind. But why, if Kaden Pressy is innocent at the end of the day? Why go to that depth? So you can interpret it however you like. Either Kaden doesn't trust Kathy naturally, or the reason why Kaden doesn't trust Kathy is because of what Alicia had said to him in the air and casting a seed of doubt and in an unnatural way, which isn't good. So, by Kaden telling the Netflix crew beforehand, you'd think that they would respect Kaden's privacy, but it didn't seem to be. Kaden Pressy said, only did interview, in the order of how he worded it, he said he only did the interview so he could shoot his pistol. So, in terms of that, it just sounds, not to sound negative or bad, but it sounds selfish. The only reason why Kaden Pressy, from how he words it now, despite me trying to interpret it from other ways to be lenient towards Kaden could only be bothered to do the interview with Kathy Bingham for the sake and the cause of Noah Presgrove. He only did that so he could fire his pistol, because Netflix were firing guns in the area at the time or so, and it was the only way Kaden could tag along to shoot his pistol. You're in the US. Can't you just go somewhere and fire your gun by yourself? Why do you need to shoot your gun with the Netflix crew? Oh, to justify tagging along with them for the sake of the Noah Presgrove case, so you can be around other people and learn or do interviews. Makes sense. Oh, I've got this free pass. Oh, I've got this opportunity, this excuse to say, I want to join you for this activity, but whilst tagging along, I'm actually just doing it so I can do other stuff. Well, how Kaden words it is an important interview with Kathy Bingham. Netflix documentary, just as important, all tied with the Noah Presgrove case. Kaden had said in the past he'll go above and beyond and get justice for Noah and do whatever it takes, even if it puts him in harm's way. But Kaden Pressy also says, oh, but by the way, if you're going to do all that and film a documentary and Kathy Bingham and talk about the case and try and spread awareness for the case and justice for Noah, if you're going to do all that, I'm only coming down just so I can shoot my new pistol and gun what I bought. and more interested in shooting a firearm than actually talking about the Noah Presgrove case. That's how you can interpret it from how Kaden words it. He might not mean it that way, but that's how he's worded it, and it sounds very selfish and different compared to his mentality in the past. Observation, that is all. It's not an attack on Kaden, it's a valid observation. Let me know in the chat if you picked up on it as well. Kaden Pressy also said that when starting to film it, when the Netflix crew were ready to roll and hit record, the first thing that was said by Netflix, they said that, in the words of Kaden Pressy, almost like re-quoting it in the moment, I'm Kaden Pressy, I'm willing to wear a wire to talk to Jack, Mikey, and all of them to try and get them to talk about Noah and admit to killing him. Hence why Kathy Bingham, what we heard earlier, Kathy Bingham saying about Kaden Pressy said he was willing to wear a wire. And Kaden says the crew said all what they said in front of Kathy Bingham. So it explains why Kathy knows about it and what Kaden was willing to do. It compromises Kaden though. Kaden, I guess, having a private, in confidence conversation with Netflix before it started recording about, I'll do this and I'll do that, but on certain conditions. And then the Netflix crew supposedly had the cheek to reveal it to another person. Bit of conflict of interest, massive trust issues, and disrespecting and stabbing Kaden in the back, making him look like a target. And even if it's just with Kathy Bingham, you know how it can spread? And it has done since, but not by Kathy Bingham, but more so by another person in some way. So let me know what you think about that. Do you think it's professional for the Netflix crew, the producer, to pass on what Kaden said in confidence to them, to pass it on to Kathy Bingham? And at least how Kaden Pressy worded it, when they started filming, that's when it was said. So what? Does that mean when the documentary airs, what's said about Kaden willing to do this and that, and do it in a sneaky, covert way, and go behind the backs of his best friend Jack Newton and others and ex-friends to get the truth out of them with a hidden microphone, that's going to be revealed in the public documentary as well, if it started filming and that's when it was said? Sounds like it, unless it's edited out. But Kathy Bingham knew about it, was in sight of hearing it, so I don't think the Netflix crew should have done that. If Kaden had issues or concerns and didn't trust Kathy, the Netflix should have been like, well, we'll put your mind at ease, we'll make it as comfortable for you so we can do all this for the sake of the case, but so you can be comfortable as well. It looks like they disrespected Kaden's wishes there, from at least how Kaden words it. You let me know what you think. Doesn't sound too good. Sounds very unprofessional, but does it seem likely? Does it seem true that Netflix would be capable of doing that? And was it the right thing to do? But yeah, to get other people to talk, for Kaden to be willing to try and get maybe a confession out of Jack Newton, Mikey, and all of them, more than one person involved, does that refer back to Kathy Bingham with her suspicions of what she thinks, as in more than one person involved in Noah's death, and it is a murder, just like how Kaden may think as well. As for exampled names given, this and that and other people, we've always got to look at the first name or the second name mentioned. The first thing that comes to your mind, the first thing that comes to your head, just like with what we looked at recently, a recent video of mine where they mentioned, oh yeah, and Brylan, or ask Brylan, or this about Brylan, and other people. Why are we using Brylan's name as the placeholder, the one at the top and then everything else below it? Does that hold some more value over other things? Is it because it's on your mind subconsciously that that's the first thought, the first name that comes to your head because it's the most recent thought on your mind, or it's actually the most relevant one which links to something and then there's other stuff that links onto it afterwards? Maybe. So what I'm thinking is, when Kaden Pressy talks or refers back to what happened as for the events and Netflix leaking it to Kathy face to face in the moment, Kaden Pressy screwed over, stabbed in the back. Kaden did say he was willing to talk with the likes of Jack Newton, his best friend, and Mikey Lair. Significant names, because they've been brought up quite a lot, more so in recent time and in the past too. What, as in, that's who Kaden may think is responsible, Jack and Mikey, for Noah's death? Well, if that's the case, then why did Kaden cover for Mikey by saying at 5:21 to 5:30, Mikey was with me at the highway and crying and upset, or maybe upset, making him look innocent when Mikey was at the house. And Snapchat footage proves that at 5:27, making Kaden's accounts look wrong and inconsistent and questionable, but making Mikey maybe appear more innocent along with other people because they just hadn't heard of the news of Noah's death at 5:15 onwards. But 6 onwards, yeah. Because we're smiling and laughing in the photo. Well, not laughing, but smiling in the photo. So it depends, how you look at it there. It makes Kaden look more suspicious than Mikey when Mikey's at the house and Kaden's at the highway. Doesn't add up. And if Kaden, I'm not saying that he does, but like I said, the first word, the first name that comes to your head, or the first one what you jot down or reference, and then you say, and other people as well, there might be more significance, more of a hook on that particular person. And to mention Jack's name first and then Mikey's name, but no one else's name is mentioned, just and the rest. Could be anyone, of course. But the first 2 names that come up first, are they more on Kaden's mind, as in who could be responsible, who may know something, and admit to killing him in that same sentence? That's how you can interpret it. And would Jack be responsible? Or at least would Kaden Pressy be suspicious and think Jack could be? Maybe. Maybe at some point in the past, Kaden felt it's just not possible. It wouldn't be possible for him to be responsible, but time has changed since. As time's gone on, 2025 feels differently. Kaden, maybe. To mention Mikey's name, to get him to talk, maybe. Admit to killing Noah. Why do you think Mikey? Or at least when you interpret how Kaden words it in that same sentence, names attached to then adding on to admit to killing Noah, sounds like Kaden has suspicion on Mikey as well. And if Kaden truly was suspicious of Mikey, then why in Kaden's interviews would Kaden say, oh yeah, Mikey was with me? As in, as long as Mikey's with me, as long as Mikey is woken up by me at 5:15 means he's probably innocent and he was with me here and there and we tag along together. So if I'm innocent and he's with me, then he's innocent as well. But by the way, now I'm going to try and get him to talk with a wire, a hidden communication, to try and get him to admit to killing Noah and maybe Jack and maybe some other people, or at least one of those persons who could be responsible. But I'll mention Mikey's name first or second because it's the first thing that comes to my mind. Because it's on my mind, it was on my mind. But by the way, in the past, I defended Mikey, even though there is a Snapchat post that goes against it and shows that Mikey's at the house and not with me. So, what do I do about that? Oh, but by the way, when people ask me online about it, I'm not going to answer it whatsoever, but I'll complain about other stuff and then I'll go completely quiet at the end. That's kind of like in the mindset of Kaden Pressy there, and it doesn't look that good. Besides that, moving on. Kaden Pressy says in quotes, whole world knows about it now. And I guess that means Kathy Bingham too. Links to the, yeah. So in the moment where Kaden Pressy says the whole world knows about it now. Well, slowly but surely, yes, but not in the moment. In the moment of when Kaden is in the office with Kathy and the crew, Netflix are there and it's all revealed towards Kathy to hear it all. Unless Kaden meant by the whole world knows, more so will know about it soon. Because Kaden did say that the crew started filming, started recording it, and then Netflix announced what Kaden was willing to do. And if that's mentioned and included in the final cut of the documentary and it's recorded as Kaden says, it will eventually be aired public and people will eventually hear about it and know what Kaden was willing to do. But how Kaden words it in his own words is, the whole world knows about it now. But how could the world publicly know about it now if the documentary has not been released yet? So the other way of interpreting it would be Kaden Pressy knows about this call between that stranger online on one of the communities who had that call with Kathy Bingham, reflecting back on the April 25th interview with Kathy in the office and Kaden and the Netflix crew, that Kaden knows that this call has been leaked or has been shared and spread, and it's been public now, or more public than before. And with surely with time, the public will now know, as Kaden says. Maybe more likely that. So Kaden knows that this call between an unknown caller, stranger, and Kathy Bingham, reflecting on this interview with Kaden knows about it all now. And it's like, shit. So in the moment, in that office, Kathy was alerted about it from the Netflix, went behind my back, and now the public will know because of this call as well on top of it. Cherry icing on top, I'm screwed. That's unfortunate for Kaden. It seems like another unfortunate pattern in which Kaden might be inconsistent at times, might not always be accurate with what he says, might claim to be confident with something and then later backtrack and says, well, actually, I don't really know, to be honest, as we've seen a few times now. But despite all that, does Kaden Pressy deserve to be caught up within it all? Does Kaden Pressy deserve to have his trust and privacy harmed, damaged, or disrespected? I don't think so. Were any of the other partygoers' calls leaked or revealed public, private ones with police? Nope. But only with Kaden. Kaden, the odd one out there. Kaden Pressy getting all the backlash. Kaden Pressy getting questioned and attacked in different ways. Some ways was justified as in a formal critique way. Not attacking, not being nasty, but just asking questions. But then other people may have gone over the top. But still, it all backfired and fell on Kaden Pressy, who suffered because of Alicia sharing it with the wrong people, and then the wrong people leaked it. It helped the general public. It did not do Kaden Pressy any favours. And now, once again, Kaden Pressy has been stabbed in the back. Not directly to do with this call that was shared, with the call with Kathy and reflecting back on the interview by Kaden, but more so the actual interview itself in the office with Kathy, more so the Netflix crew. If the Netflix crew heard what Kaden had to say, shared his concerns and worries, and the Netflix crew kept it private with Kaden only, Kathy wouldn't know. So that when that call did take place end of April 2025, when Kathy's talking to that stranger online via a call about what went down in that interview, Kathy wouldn't know about Kaden and The Wire. So it would have made Kaden okay. So you look back to the origins of Kaden being in a very bad situation now, and makes him look like a spy in some way, and sly and sneaky, is because Kaden confided in Netflix. Netflix actually gave the option, supposedly, of The Wire. This is what you can do, Kaden. And Kaden said he's willing to do it. So Netflix suggested it. Kaden was willing to go along with it, and to what extent. Shared it in private, and then Netflix then shared it with Kathy Bingham. So then when Kathy Bingham had that call with someone in private, away from the documentary on a different day, end of April, knew about it and shared it on. And then that stranger that recorded the call then shared it on with others. And then somehow it got public-ish. Once again, Kaden Pressy caught up within it all. Once again, Kaden Pressy gets the backlash, or could. That's not fair. That's not fair for Kaden in regard to that specifically. So it's happened twice now, Kaden getting stabbed in the back by the incompetence of others. And it's the source, it's the origin, the root of certain problems, but not the same theme each time, though, different people from what we've seen. Now, besides that, Kaden Pressy says Netflix producers and what they've done, dumb decision what they did, revealing it, telling Kathy. The Netflix producers should have known better not to tell Kathy, considering Kaden didn't trust her. Should have respected the wishes in some way, yeah. Kaden Pressy said, it's put a bigger target on my back now. And the final line, what Kaden Pressy said was, it is what it is, but somebody probably will end up killing me. And that's how it ended. Now, there's some additional responses and replies and add-ons, like comment-wise. Maybe we can acknowledge that in a separate video, like, and the comment section on YouTube as well, like a debriefing, because it's been pretty full on today. As for the notes, probably keep hold on to them just to be safe. make some references and links to other videos at some point shortly, map analysis and beyond, go from there. But a lot to take in, a lot of stuff I've never heard before. All in one go, all in the space of 2 hours. Granted, I know I said a summary and the actual call that you listen to is 10 minutes long. Bloody hell. It just goes to show how deep it is. A 10-minute call and my analysis turns into a 2-hour analysis, but for good reason, because I fill in the gaps, I add on links, and I also try and interpret the language by these people in which other people may misunderstand. This is the groundwork in terms of having things somewhat under control. These are the groundworks that were needed and necessary if I was present at the start of the case, but I wasn't, so can't do much about it. But the structure, the format of what I've done today is the same exact format and structure what I did to the Kaden Pressy leaked police interview. That's probably the last time I've done a video like this. And it follows the same theme with the same person, Kaden, and the same outcome, something being leaked. So the last time I did a video like this was when it came to Kaden and when it came to something being leaked, and it was to do with something very important, just like how we are where we are right now. And one thing what I've been consistent with, the interview itself, the audio and all that has not been shown in my video nor footage, so it's all under control there, all above board. Just like when in the past back then I defended myself against Alicia and Alicia was like, oh okay, I respect that, thank you for not using it or using it, including. Okay? So you let me know what you think down below. Do you think that Kaden Pressy has now a bigger target on him? Do you think somebody will kill him? Because the way Kaden worded it sounded a bit defeated, but also realistic, as in, yeah, I'm probably going to die now. Someone's going to murder Kaden Pressy, supposedly. If that someone is, or some people, are they the ones that know or responsible to Noah's death then? Makes you wonder. For this to be brought up in 2025, for the interview itself with Netflix to be of April 25th, 2025, very recent considering. So for Kaden says in danger in recent time, relevant timing to what could happen from now till whenever. Let's keep track of things. But it does make me think, and you can let me know in the comment section, when it came to a few months ago, when it came to Kaden Pressy saying he's going to get his Apple phone data, download it, get it passed on from Apple. He's going to share it to the general public so everyone can see it. A few days later, upon making that promise, he disappeared online. He didn't comment really anymore. He made one very brief appearance a few weeks later on one of my videos, and then he deleted his comment immediately. Very weird. Left the Facebook groups as well, or some of them at least. Not really been seen since publicly. Is that because Kaden has been working in the background with Netflix now, and that's why he's not been public? Maybe. But as like we saw with Kaden's mentality, is the only reason why he was there to do that interview is just so he could fire his gun, which is like a personal want, need, decision. Depends how you look at it. So yeah, and as well, if Kaden Pressy in recent time of April 2025, let's put it that way, that he's more of a target now, in danger, some people probably will murder him, that's what he feels like now. That could also tie in with him going quiet online to try and keep a low profile, to hide, protect himself maybe. Depends how you look at it. I wonder how, I don't think Alicia would react too well to him. What Kaden says about somebody will probably end up killing me. Sounds really bad. So I think we'll leave it there for now. I believe all the notes have been included as best as I can, try and interpret it, and previous follow-up points as well. Seems like there's a lot of stuff we need to touch upon again or reflect back on, and that will come at some point shortly. Just got to take it all in. And for anyone that had joined late, just rewind back. And anyone that's watched it all in full, be sure to rewind the video back because there's a lot to take in and remember. My name's Warlike Ref. Hopefully you found the video somewhat interesting. If you want to share the video, hit the thumbs up, that'd be much appreciated. But that's it for now. Goodbye.